Inside Michigan Football is presented by Meijer. Hi again, friends, and welcome to another edition of Inside Michigan Football. Doug Karsch alongside the captain, John Jansen, here at the Big House. Michigan at the bye week. Next Saturday they play Purdue right here, but first at the bye, 8-0. On the field, a lot to like.
There is a lot to like, and the fact that everybody is relatively healthy. We've got these new availability reports, and they're shrinking every year or every week, and the fact that most of these guys, most of the starters, and on defense we're talking about 2 deep starters, haven't even played in the fourth quarter. So they're fresh, they're healthy, and they're getting good work in the middle of the week of practice.
Wolverines have described it as the November push, and they're ready for it. The Wolverines have won 20 consecutive Big Ten games, which is a school record. Michigan is the only team at the FBS level to be undefeated and have won each of its games by 20-plus points through 8 weeks. Michigan has scored 30-plus points in 11 straight games, the longest streak in program history. Michigan has scored 40-plus points in 3 straight Big Ten games for the first time since 2021. Blake Corum has 44 career touchdowns. Only Tyrone Wheatley and Anthony Thomas have more. Roman Wilson is the 12th Michigan player in history with 10 or more receiving touchdowns in a season. Tight end Colston Loveland has at least 1 reception in every game and has at least 1 receiving touchdown in 3 straight games. His first career multi-touchdown game came last Saturday against MSU. And then there's the play of Michigan's quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, who has vaulted to the top of the Heisman odds. Our Ed Kengerski has more.
This football season can be described in a lot of different ways. For quarterback J.J. McCarthy, it comes down to one 3-letter word. Fun.
So much fun. You know, I've never been on a team that, you know, everyone plays for each other, not just with each other. And I'm having the time of my life.
J.J. leads the Big Ten in touchdown passes with 18 and ranks 2nd in the country in pass efficiency, yards per attempt, and completion percentage. But he says there is still room for improvement.
The goal is to score every single time we touch the ball. So, you know, ways that we can improve on that is, you know, decision making on certain critical downs and, you know, just executing on all levels every single play.
You're putting up a pretty impressive season. Did you expect this?
In a way I did. I did, just because of all the work that I've been putting in since I was a youngin', and especially all the work I put in with Coach Campbell and Coach Moore and all the receivers and all the tight ends this past offseason. It was just a matter of time when it was going to pop.
McCarthy mentioned being a youngin'. I asked him when he first started dreaming of this.
Probably not until I was in 5th grade, when I really wanted to be great at this game. And I, you know, kind of devoted my entire life to this game of football. You know, from 1st grade to 5th grade, it was just about, you know, the joy of the game and going out there with your buddies and having fun. But yeah, 5th grade is when I really turned it on and wanted to be one of the greats.
JJ brings a smile and a blast of energy to any room he enters. But his precision on the field showcases a competitive nature that inspires everyone around him.
This meme on Instagram that I go back to, like, you can have both. You can have the monster inside of you, and you can have, you know, the angel or the, you know, just calm, loving, peaceful part of yourself too. So I just feel like, you know, being out there on Saturdays is when I really am able to let out that monster and that beast and that gladiator kind of mentality, and you know, I have a lot of fun with it.
With 8 games down, the Wolverines now prepare to enter the final and most difficult phase of the regular season.
It's November, where lives are changed, where, you know, football is at its best in the Big Ten, and you know, we've just been chomping at the bit for it, but we're just so focused on, you know, taking it week by week and focusing on Purdue. And I think that speaks to our success the most, is how present we were able to stay when, you know, all the chatter is about us not playing a good schedule and all this. We're just focused on day by day and getting better.
Getting better, it's something JJ and the Wolverines have done all season long. He is currently at 5,034 passing yards, 317 behind Tom Brady for 9th on the school's all-time list. Sitting in the number 8 position, his head coach, Jim Harbaugh. For Inside Michigan Football, I'm Ed Kengerski.
Thanks, Ed. Let's talk about the rest of the offense, starting with your favorite topic, the offensive line. What do you make of the O-line's play so far?
It's been good. They've had a couple of different combinations, and they've settled on Carson Barnhart at right tackle, Ladarius Henderson at left, and over the last 3 weeks, it really feels like there's a little bit of a better rhythm. I think Drake Nugent is doing a good job, directing everybody, getting everybody going in the right direction, communicating with the quarterback and the running backs, and obviously the 2 All-American guards. When you have guys that you can build around and you're comfortable with them, you can mix and match some combinations and you're going to be all right.
All right, so the Wolverines, a year ago, the story was how they could only run the ball and not throw the ball. This year, it's people saying they can only throw the ball, not run the ball. Do they need to get the run game going?
Well, I mean, every time that you take the field and you could do something a little bit better, yeah, I mean, that would be great if they were able to get more chunk plays. But they still can run the ball. We're talking about an offense that leads the nation in the least number of lost yardage plays. So even though we may not have 50-yard runs by Blake Corum or Donovan or a whole bunch of the 25-yard runs, we've got a heck of a lot of the 8-9-yard runs.
And then there's the pass catchers. Roman Wilson has turned into a real weapon. You also talk about Colston Loveland at tight end. Cornelius Johnson still has big play capability, and some depth guys have started to step up.
Well, at receiver, we've got Samaj Morgan, young guy who's really in the last 3 weeks been, a major contributor, and A.J. Barner. In East Lansing, had 8 catches. And the tight end group, you mentioned that, 12 catches between the 2 of them, 3 touchdowns. They've really added a lot to this offense, and we're talking about the depth and the ability to attack every level in the passing game.
The running back position, Blake Corum's doing Blake Corum things. Donovan Edwards trying to get going on the ground, but he's been really good in the pass game.
He has, and when you have the ability to use both those guys in a lot of different ways, and the fact that you can add in a Khalil Mullings when he comes back after the bye, hopefully after the bye week, that you've got 3 different styles of back. You mentioned Blake Corum doing Blake Corum things. Donovan Edwards, again, doing Donovan Edwards things where you could throw him the ball. Last thing, 2 years ago when we went to Maryland, what was it, 10 catches that he had? Set a record for running back. So there's a lot to like about that position.
Yeah, and you mentioned Khalil Mullings. You can see that guy becoming more part of the offense as the season goes on. We'll take a look at the Michigan defense coming up here on Inside Michigan Football. Inside Michigan Football is brought to you by Meijer, presenting sponsor of the 2023 Michigan football season and proud supporter of thousands of local sports teams across the Midwest. Welcome back to Inside Michigan Football, presented by Meijer. The Michigan defense held its first 8 opponents under 10 points for the first time since 1973. No opponent has scored more than 1 touchdown against this defense. No team has run a play inside Michigan's 10-yard line this season. The Wolverines have outscored their opponents 107-0 in the 3rd quarter. All right, let's talk more about this Michigan defense, and we start with the guys up front who have been dominant.
They have, and I mentioned a couple of segments ago the fact that these guys haven't played in the 4th quarter, and this is where it really pays off, is on this defensive front. Whether you're talking about just the front 7 or the defensive line, when you can rotate 5 different guys, 2 groups of 5 guys through on the defensive front, going from edge rushers all the way in, and you don't have a drop off, and these guys are always coming in, they're fresh. Mike Elston came up with the rally group. We've talked about that during the broadcast. All of a sudden, you have guys that are coming in that are dominant players, and they're fresh. As an offensive lineman, you're just, wanting to have a break, and you just don't get one with this group.
Yeah, and you mentioned the depth. The linebacker position, one of the coaches said earlier this year that they're getting their statistics stolen by the defensive front. I don't know that the linebackers are getting huge tackle numbers, but it's because many times running backs aren't getting to them.
Well, they're not. And I talked to Junior Colson and Mike Barrett at the beginning of the week, and that's one of the things that they said. They're okay with that. And they said the fact that we're able to roam around behind this group of defensive linemen, we can make plays. We could be the safety net instead of our safeties and our corners being that for our defense.
And Ernest Hausman, I know you love what he's brought to the table.
A great addition. And we talk about the depth up front. He's added that speed, the depth at that linebacker position, and it was a necessity because because you going into the season, you got Mike Barrett, Junior Colson, and other than that, you didn't have great depth. You didn't have depth of experience, and not that you bring in a sophomore, you're thinking, well, you know, you could have more experience, but he did start for Nebraska last year. He started on this field, so he's been a really good addition.
Secondary has played very well, led by Mikey Sanristel, who's taken 2 back to the house. I contend it's the greatest late career position switch in Michigan football history.
I think you're probably right. And the fact that you've got, at this point, 4 pick sixes by the defensive secondary. And early on, remember, we didn't have Rod Moore. We didn't have Makari Page. We didn't have Will Johnson. And you were able to get guys, you know, to be able to fill in. Keyshawn Harris did a great job filling in. Keon Sabb. And you go down the list of guys, and at this time of the year, what are we talking about? Keon Sabb's got 2 picks. We would have never thought that at the beginning of the year, but he was able to get great experience, and he made the most of that experience.
And the money man in that secondary is Will Johnson. Boy, can he play.
He sure can. You start off the game in Minnesota with the pick 6, and it set the tone.
Wolverines defensively have been an absolute dominant group, creating turnovers. They're doing that a little bit more than they did a year ago.
Yeah, when you can create that sudden change, and it's a sudden change, it's momentum, it's field position, it's the threat of, I mean, we've seen, you know, Kenneth Grant with interceptions. We've seen him, you know, drop into pass coverage and the ball hit him in the face. Like, these are different things that this defense is able to do and attack in different ways. Now, all of a sudden, as an offensive coordinator, you're worried about a defensive lineman playing at the linebacker depth. You're worried about your linebackers or corners coming and safeties. Like, it's a nightmare to try and prepare for this defense.
Still more to come here on Inside Michigan Football. Later, a very special Iron Man of the Week. And in fact, here they come, right out of the tunnel and under the banner. Steps up in the pocket, looking downfield, and fires end zone, caught, touchdown. Rolling to his right, fires end zone, Roman Wilson, touchdown. Back to pass, heavy rush, down he goes. Under duress, and down he goes. Blake Corum to the end zone. Touchdown, Michigan. Back to pass, he's got Roman Wilson. Touchdown, Wolverines. Setting up a screen, fires it, it's intercepted. Rhys Jenkins. Blake Corum takes a handoff, running to his right. It powers into the blue. Going to fire it towards Samaj Morgan in the end zone. He goes up and gets a touchdown on 4th and 2. Sets up a wide receiver screen, and it's blown up out there. Will Johnson comes forward. The ball gets tipped in the air and pulled out by Mike Sanristel. Mikey Sanristel, touchdown. JJ's going to fire to the end zone. Roman Wilson's there. He goes up. He's got it. Touchdown, Wolverines.
Wow, what an unbelievable catch.
Turns and hands it to Evans, who's met in the backfield and dropped right there. Handoff, Blake Corum dives over the top into the end zone. Here comes the rush, and he'll go down. Looking downfield, triggers, intercepted. Going the other direction, 20, 10, touchdown, Keon Sabb. Back here on Inside Michigan Football, so no game this week. They call it Improvement Week before they get into Purdue preparations. You didn't like Improvement Week?
No, I don't like bye weeks. I'm not sure if I like night games less or bye weeks less, because it messes up with the rhythm. You've got a certain rhythm, and college kids thrive on rhythm. And I understand the need for rest and sleep. I mentioned Junior Colson. He was really looking forward to some extra sleep. I get that. But there's a certain rhythm of the week, and then you lose that rhythm. And this is a crucial time for this team. You're 8-0. You're going into the meat of the schedule, and you want to make sure that you keep that rhythm.
So does that mean you got to guard against the letdown after a week off when you take the field again?
Well, I'm not as concerned. This is more selfish for me. Okay. I just don't want to have to sit at home.
You're in a rhythm.
I'm in a rhythm, yes. I want to be able to be in the big house. But I'm not as concerned because this team has been very workmanlike, very businesslike, very methodical in how they've taken on teams. And they've never played down to the talent. They've always played Michigan football. So I'm not concerned that they're going to be able to come back or not going to be able to come back and pick up where they left off.
We have a very special Iron Man of the Week when we continue on Inside Michigan Football. Wolverines blitz. Sorsby bails out of there. He's got nowhere to go. The Wolverines come up with a sack and a fumble. JJ bails out of there right, looking downfield. He's going to find Colston Loveland wide open at the 30, to the 25, to the 20. Cuts back inside at the 10, to the end zone. Touchdown, Colston Loveland. Steps up in the pocket, avoids the rush, now fires, end zone, Roman Wilson, touchdown, Wolverines. JJ back to pass, can take a shot, fires to the end zone, caught, touchdown, Colston Loveland. JJ back to pass, looking, fires over the middle, end zone, caught, touchdown, Wolverines, and Michigan extends the lead. Hauser back to pass, Wolverines bring an extra pass rusher, pass is fired, it's intercepted. Mikey St. Risto on the far sideline.
The goals that we have, and in order to get to where we want to be, Michigan State was one of the teams that's in the way. So we just wanted to come out here and dominate and, show the country who we are.
Michigan, the leaders in best. Hail to the victors, valiant, hail to the conquering heroes, hail, hail to Michigan, the champions of the West. Go Blue!
It's time for our Al Rosteele Man of the Week.
I'm Noah Stewart, a senior from Muskegon, Michigan. I'm a walk-on, and I love this team. Since I was 10 years old, I dream of playing, putting the winged helmet on and playing in the big house. Yeah, it's hard watching some of the guys get more snaps and stuff, but you focus on yourself and you focus on your job. I love the sport, I love this team, I love these teammates. And yeah, that's how I do it. When I was 11 years old, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. We were down in Florida watching the Outback Bowl. My parents realized how sick I was and how skinny. The next day, we were out on a boat, and there was a doctor with us, and then the doctor told my mother, she's like, this guy does not look good. Came back, mom tested my blood sugar, and she told me that we had something in common. My mother, she was a type 1 diabetic. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition where your pancreas doesn't function the way it should be, and it doesn't create insulin. You need to take insulin to be able to digest food properly, and if you don't, then your blood basically turns to acid, and then you start losing limbs, start losing sight, and eventually you die. I had a tutor right in my house, who taught me how to be able to take care of myself and keep myself alive. And even to this day, she's always watching my blood sugar and making sure I'm doing the best I can to keep myself healthy. Abigail's a godsend. She has saved my life countless times, and not only with diabetes, but also with my weight gaining process. I came in severely underweight for my position, and she's been by my side the entire time, telling me what I should eat, what I shouldn't eat, how much I should be eating.
You have that back and forth and that interaction on a daily basis where, some athletes might come and talk to me when they need me, and it's an everyday thing for Noah.
She's walking that tightrope with me.
And he's a puzzle. He's a giant puzzle where sometimes he'll drop his pump off before practice and he's in a hurry and he'll sprint off, and I'll look at it and see, how many units on board he has, where his blood sugar is right now, and I have to think like, okay, this is what our practice looks like today. Here's where he's going to be most challenged. Here's where I think he maybe needs a snack. I wonder what he had for lunch. And it's almost like a giant puzzle you get to work through every day.
She's managing my blood sugar, because when I'm practicing, I can't have my numbers with me. See, I'm working on practicing. And she'll have sugar on hand, she'll have insulin on hand for whenever my blood sugar gets too high or too low.
There's a lot of trust that's been built. We've been working on this and improving our practice on it since he's gotten here. So I'll walk up to Noah during practice and say like, hey, I want to give you the snack. And he's like, okay. He knows that I have his best interest at heart. He knows that, there's a process behind it. He knows that we've worked through it.
She's kind of that barrier for me that keeps me safe. My Michigan experience has been the best 4 years of my life. The amount of stuff I've learned here, both academically, athletically, socially, mentally, everything, it's been the best 4 years. The friendships I've encountered, the coaches, the professors, the teachers, everything. It's been truly a great experience, and I'll cherish these 4 years for the rest of my life.
Welcome back to Inside Michigan Football. Doug Karsch, John Jansen, and we have a bit of a correction to make from a show earlier this year. Now, when we go on the road, we like to check out local establishments, the food, etc. And 2 weeks ago, we're at Minnesota, and there was some confusion about what I ordered when this picture popped up. I did not order steak.
Were you offended by
I wasn't offended.
this?
I just
or
don't
was
eat.
there a reference that it was Doug Karsch equals piece of meat?
That's what they thought, is that I was eating
really?
red meat, and I don't, and that's okay. I'm not offended. I had the scallops, which were pretty good.
Yeah, they did look good.
Yeah.
They did look good, but yeah, we wouldn't want to toughen you up with the reputation of eating meat, which is, as you mentioned, okay. But yes, it was a correction. The piece of meat that went to the offensive linemen, and the scallops went to the voice of Michigan football.
Well, I highly recommend the scallops if you're ever in Minneapolis and had
surf and turf. I'd do scallops.
And who knows what we'll get next time we're on the road, which is out.
They weren't by chance wrapped in bacon, were they?
They were not wrapped in bacon. We can look for those in State College in a couple weeks. That'll do it for this week's edition of Inside Michigan Football. We'll be back next week to take a look back at the game against Purdue right here on Inside Michigan Football. Inside Michigan Football is brought to you by Meijer, presenting sponsor of the 2023 Michigan football season and proud supporter of thousands of local sports teams across the Midwest.